Very big thank you to Jules and Scott Owen and Nibiru Magic and Linda, who's known as Maureen Mayan on YouTube, for doing the show for me last week. I'm better, not 100% yet, but I'm getting there. They did such a great job. They actually went into overtime on Tuesday. It was awesome. Some stats on Sandy. 18 are now confirmed dead. Fox News is reporting possibly up to 33 people. The damage and flooding are just unreal. There's anywhere from 5 to 7 million people without power. The New York City tunnels and subways are completely flooded. Con Ed and various other organizations are saying anywhere from 5 to 7 days for power restoration. This is an ever-changing situation. We're still having high winds, even by me. Lots of snow and rain. West Virginia just got hammered. My power went out here in southeast Michigan just for about 5 minutes last night, and we had some transformer flashes. I can't imagine what it must have been like in that area. Jules and Kurt, you guys are a little bit closer than I am. What did you notice from this storm in New York?
Nothing where I'm at. We didn't get really anything here. We got some rain, a little bit of wind, but nothing like what was in the city.
Yeah, same thing here. I mean, really, it wasn't any worse than any nice thunderstorm or if it were snow blizzard. I mean, the wind was a little windy. Leaves blew off trees and stuck to things. That's about the extent of it.
And I heard that it took a westward direction, more west than to go straight up through, Syracuse and into Canada. It took more of a western turn towards the snowstorm that was coming in from the Midwest. So that kind of saved us.
Well, those preppers don't seem so crazy anymore, do they?
Not at all.
Oh, we've lots of stuff to cover. Of course, the nuke plant situation. We also want to talk about some earthquakes that have been going on, and Bug is going to weigh in on that as well. I've got a theory of my own, too, about the sinkhole situation and its spreading, possibly causing destabilization in surrounding states. And then we need to talk about worst case scenario. If they do have a problem, especially at Oyster Creek, where is the fallout going to be the biggest concern? Now, any news is reporting more nuclear plants are now affected. New York's Indian Point reactor is shut down, and the storm also caused condenser problems at the Pennsylvania plant called Limerick. Exelon spokesman David Tillman said another Exelon reactor at the Limerick facility in Pennsylvania was reduced to 91% power after Sandy caused a problem with the condenser. And Indian Point, which is just north of New York City, was partly shut down as the superstorm hit. One of the units at Indian Point, which is 45 miles north of New York City, was shut down at 10:45 last night because of external electrical grid issues, which said Entergy, which operates the plant. The company, of course, and the NRC has been saying there's no risk to employees or the public, but of course all these reactors are venting steam right now, and we're also going to be hearing from one of the folks on Radiation Watch at the bottom of the hour who's going to give us a rundown on what the radiation readings are in the last 24 hours, where the spikes have been. He's been following it a lot closer than I have. Couple quick stats on these 3 plants, and just to remind you, there are 26 plants in the path of this storm. Oyster Creek Nuclear Power Station is a single unit boiling water reactor power plant located on 800 acres adjacent to Oyster Creek in the Forked River section of Lacey Township in Ocean County, New Jersey. Facility is currently owned and operated by Exelon, as the oldest operating nuclear power plant in the United States. Plant first came on land December 1st, 1969, and is licensed to operate until April 9th, 2029. The plant gets its cooling water from Barnegat Bay, a brackish estuary that empties into the Atlantic Ocean through an inlet. It's one of 4 licensed nuclear power reactors in New Jersey. And I want to read the population density in the area. The NRC defines 2 emergency planning zones around nuclear power plants: a plume exposure pathway zone with a radius of 10 miles, concerned primarily with exposure to and inhalation of airborne radioactive contamination, and an ingestion pathway zone of about 50 miles, concerned primarily with ingestion of food and liquid. What that basically says, if you live within a 10-mile radius, you have to get out if something happens at the plant. If you live within a 50-mile radius, you should get out, because your food chain and all of your water is going to be heavily contaminated. Of course, if that happened here, who knows how they would handle it. Maybe like Japan, have their Weather Channel people eat produce on air and pretend everything's okay. Now, according to 2010 U.S. population, within 10 miles of Oyster Creek was 133,000. That's 2010. Let's see, within 50 miles was 4,482,000. Cities within 50 miles include Atlantic City, which is 30 miles away, Toms River, which is 10 miles away, Lakewood, which is 20 miles away, Ashbury Park, which is 30 miles away, and Cherry Hill. Interesting, Cherry Hill also was having a lot of sinkhole problems, as well as some of the beaches in New Jersey. Back in the summer, they had up to 12 sinkholes. Now, the next one on the list is 9 Mile Point. It's a 2-unit nuclear power plant located in the town of Scriba, approximately 5 miles northeast of Oswego, New York, on the shore of Lake Ontario. The 900-acre site is also occupied by Fitzpatrick Nuclear Generating Station. Both units are, again, General Electric boiling water reactors. Those are like the double-decker beach bombs in Fukushima. Unit 1 went online in 1969. Unit 2 went online in 1988. And let's see, how long are they licensed for? I don't see it. It was granted a 20-year extension in 2006. So Unit 2 is actually licensed until 2046. The 9 Mile Point cooling tower is visible from Chimney Bluffs in Sodus, New York, nearly 30 miles away. And let's see here, what is the population density? Again, according to 2010 statistics, within 10 miles were 35,632 people. Within 50 miles was 909,000. Cities within 50 miles of 9 Mile Point include, Kurt, Syracuse, 36 miles to the city center.
Wow. Yeah, I know there's one not too far from here.
Yeah, and also there was an alert put out last night that they were evacuating people in Pennsylvania, and now this came up about Limerick this morning, but there was an area called Wills Creek that was flooding. U.S. alerts put out this emergency and somehow put nuclear in the sentence. There was no nuclear emergency. Now, there is a site of a decommissioned plant there called Saxton, but that was from years ago. The nearest plant to this area would be 3 Mile Island. There was an evacuation reported by the county, but it was because of a rising creek situation, not because of a nuclear situation so far. Limerick Nuclear Power Plant, this is the one having the condenser problem, is located in Limerick Township, Montgomery County, northwest of Philadelphia. The facility has 2 General Electric boiling water reactors, again, cooled by natural draft cooling towers. When conditions are right, these cooling towers emit enough water vapor to be seen as far away as Centralia in Columbia County. Let's see here. Population density, according to 2010 census, was 252,000 within 10 miles. And within 50 miles were 8 million people. Cities within 50 miles include Philadelphia. Oh my gosh. So we're going to need to keep a really close eye on the situation, and people living around the plants, hopefully you have Geigers and can contribute to some of the data that's being posted on Radiation Watch. Also, I'll post the link again for how close is your home to a nuke plant. Now, this hurricane situation, though, is going to pose a number of problems. And I'd like to get Bug's opinion on this, too, because, you know, they put out these maps and they've got these perfect circles around these cities, and that's not how the wind blows, especially right now. So, I mean, this would only almost be an hour-to-hour situation, depending on if and when there was some type of meltdown or fire. Oyster Creek is a really big concern because the reactors were empty and being serviced. So all of the fuel is in the spent fuel pools. And they lost power. They were using generators, but the generators were within 6 inches of being flooded last night. And NRC spokesman said, don't worry, we can just use fire hoses to cool the fuel. Where have we seen that before? So I've got the map up now, and some of the other areas that are concerning to me besides these plants would be Salem 1 and 2, which is just a little bit north of Dover and a little bit south of Philly. Peach Bottom 2 and 3. 3 Mile Island, of course. I mean, they're all in the zone. North of Yonkers is Indian Point, and then a bit east of there is Millstone 2 and 3. Now, these are all among inlets or right on the ocean. The storm surge right now, it's my understanding that it's at its high tide point, and we already had a large influx of water that came in last night. Before this water could recede, it was going to be hit with this surge again today, so we're going to really have to watch this closely today. Who better to explain the concerns about this nuke plant situation than Arnie Gunderson? He did a podcast over the weekend explaining his concern about the plants that would be in the path of the storm and what the scenario would be in terms of a power interruption. Kurt's got a clip to play for us.
Emails on right now, and that's the Hurricane Sandy, and what
the real issue is likely to be the storm surge, which is essentially the extra height in the center of the hurricane as the water comes in, and the waves, and then but more importantly will be the flooding, the inland flooding. The waves and the storm surge will likely do a lot of destruction on the New Jersey coast. But likely not do too much damage to the power plants. My expectation is that it will be flooding related and relatively high winds, but the transmission grid can't. That's all those transmission towers that are all over the states. So what's likely to happen is that the power lines will go down, and the plant will suffer what we call loss of off-site power. And that's what happened at Fukushima Daiichi. The off-site power was eliminated. At that point, the plant, if it's operating, the plant will automatically scram because it's got no place to send its power.
No, when you say scram, that means to shut down the reactor?
The control rods will go in real quickly, and the nuclear chain reaction will stop. The plant needs to drop its power immediately because there's no wire at the other end to send it anywhere if the offsite power is lost. So what happens next, though, is that the diesel generators have got to turn on because there's no other alternative source of power. Some of these plants have 2 diesels, and some of these plants have 3 diesels, and they're designed so if one of the diesels fails, they can still get by.
Why off-site power is needed on the nuclear plant?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, but a nuclear plant needs power to generate power. It's got ancillary systems that have to power, and So as it sends power out to the grid, it also sends some of that power back into itself to run. Almost 5% of the nuclear electricity is used to run the pumps that make the electricity. So when offsite power is lost, the plant is forced to dramatically reduce power real quickly, and then it still needs to be cooled. You know, you'll hear in the next 2 days that we've shut down the plant. We've safely shut down the plant. What that means is they've stopped the chain reaction. But what Fukushima taught us was that that doesn't stop the decay heat. There's still as much as 5% of the power from the power plant that doesn't go away when the plant shuts down. And for that, you need the diesels to keep the plant cool.
So if and when the plant loses off-site power, the diesels kick in to keep the plant cool, and those diesels fire up no problem.
Well, when I was at Northeast Utilities back in the 70s, we had a hurricane come in, and we lost off-site power. The plant scrammed, and we had two alternative ways of producing power, and one of them didn't work. So we were down to one diesel, and we sat for 6 hours and on just one diesel until the off-site power was restored and we could get power into the plant to help with the cooling. Now the plant's designed to run on one, so of course the Nuclear Regulatory Commission would say everything was safe and sound. But I'll tell you, as the plant operator, as the people running the plant, it's a little bit of a nervous time to realize that you're on your last fallback. You just hope that the last fallback keeps running.
What should plant operators and managers in these companies be doing in preparation for Hurricane Sandy?
It would be better if the plants shut down before they lost the offsite power. As the hurricane comes in, they'll know that pretty soon there's going to be high winds, and while the plant itself may withstand the high winds, the transmission won't. So it would be better if the operators, instead of waiting for the power to fail, shut the power plant down ahead of time. And the reason for that is that when a plant scrams, that's a sudden shutdown, that's a pretty severe jolt to the systems, and it's a challenge to the safety systems. Whereas if the operators can bring it down slowly over 5, 6, 7 hours ahead of time, that's less of a challenge. Sort of the difference between slamming on the brakes and coming to a gradual halt. It's less stressful for the power plants. So I'm hoping that there's 26 power plants in the East Coast that are in the area where Sandy is likely to hit. And hopefully as the storm track becomes better defined, the plants that are most subject to it, likely New Jersey and Pennsylvania, preventatively shut down, and that would, of course, minimize the impact, the jarring to the nuclear reactor and its safety systems.
So in the event of a loss of off-site power, we're talking about the diesels, and it's quite possible they'll be down to relying on their last diesel to keep the plant cool, and that keeps the reactor cool. From Fukushima, though, we know that the fuel pool needs to stay cool as well. How do the fuel pools factor into this?
The nuclear reactors are not designed to cool the fuel pool off the diesels.
All right, we've got some breaking news. Salem Nuclear Power Plant on Delaware Bay in southern New Jersey is manually shut down just after 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. Any News is just reporting this now, when 4 of the station's 6 circulating water pumps were no longer available due to weather impacts from Hurricane Sandy. No issues were encountered during the Salem Unit 1 shutdown, and the plant is currently stable. In addition to the operating crews on site, Salem has designated response teams available too at 9 Mile Point near Oswego, which we just talked about, and what operators say is likely a storm-related event. Unit 1 shut down automatically around 9 p.m. last night because of an electrical fault. We're just hearing about this now.
Hi, everyone.
Nikoi. How do you say your first name?
Nokoi.
Nikoi.
Just call me Noki.
Unknown.
Noki.
I didn't know I was going to mess you up just by trying the phone line. I was just wanted to make sure I could get through.
Yeah, I don't know. We're having some kind of interference. Jules is working
No, I
on it.
took a show out when I called in or something, man.
Also, trouble with both units at New York's 9 Mile Point, Oyster Creek, Indian Point, and Limerick. So we've got 5 plants down. It looks like some of them went down last night. It's just being reported now. Bug, you've got to just be pulling your hair out over this situation. I mean, you've been worrying about this for years and years.
Yeah. This is so frustrating, man. I mean, I got videos on it, man. This was a scenario that was coming. It's inbound. It's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. And these, you're talking. Just go ahead and just wipe out, extinct the whole East Coast. I had somebody go, oh, he put on my comment. I'm glad somebody cares about New York, and I'm going, of course I care about it. Holy smokes, man. Jeez, and I'm going like, wow, you got this whole East Coast just surrounded with nuclear reactors all over the place. I put up a video a year ago explaining why the 7.7 and the 7-point earthquake would hit up there in Canada. But I also did a nuclear meltdown experiment in the beginning of that video, okay? And man, when you start getting dynamics like this, and I also put in that earthquake shutdown of the Virginia plant in that video, which is an unstable plant. Now that you just got all this new loading of weight in there, man, holy smokes. And New Madrid always has a history going into winter. And they still don't know if it was the Kansas fault line or New Madrid that went first and second, man. And I'm just sitting there going, man, look at the pressure. You're on the clock, man. Yeah, and I'm going like, and this is where I come in, okay? USGS, you are accountable. You are getting major pay bucks, and I am just predicting stuff like nothing, okay? You guys are withholding information, vital, critical information from the American public. And just like those Italian scientists that got busted and jailed and went to prison, okay, for manslaughter because somebody died because they didn't put out that warning on those earthquakes. And heck, I did an updated warning on that Alaskan area going up in there, and you're going to have a big quake up there. You just had another series of quakes off the coast of Greenland yesterday. It's rebounding up there. It's going to kick the water out. You've got major dynamics, and there's no way in hell these nuclear power plants are going to withstand it.
Yeah, for anyone that might have missed this, although I don't know how you could, north of Vancouver Island a few days ago in the Queen Charlotte Island region, there was a 7.7 with a subsequent swarm, and some of these subsequent earthquakes have been large. I think the largest was a 6.4. There's lots of concern from people that the pattern that's occurring now on this side of the plate is similar to what we saw in Japan prior to the Tohoku 9.0. Bug, what do you think about that? I see New Zealand is swarming too, now at the bottom of this plate today.
Yeah, well, I predicted this New Zealand stuff before it started. And that Japan, I was warning Japan for 15 months right here on YouTube. I don't know how many radio shows. I even contacted the military that was stationed off of the coast of Japan. And I was warning them with real, valid, 100% straight up science. Okay, they can't walk from it. And since that coast was sinking 3 days beforehand, and they knew it, okay, they knew it, and they know that post-glacier rebound is real stuff because they got Grace satellite tracking it, and that thing had a bug in it, and they can't lie to me. I know how much water is going into this ocean, okay? That's how I'm able to pull out these quakes one after another. They can't lie. Okay, those people that allowed that nuclear meltdown to happen over at TEPCO should be going to jail. They're executives for manslaughter up the wazoo. And all you U.S. or your NRC people that have no regulations whatsoever on fracking projects near a nuclear power plant, okay, as this Earth is expanding and widening, and that is bona fide fact. And it's happening from the glaciers. Don't believe me? You can even read it in National Geographic. It's an ice skater principle, post-glacier rebound effect. Man, this Earth is spreading. It's going to take got reactors, man. This is, when the United Nations came out point blank, and I got that in video, and they stated we're going to have more nuclear meltdowns, the size of Chernobyl and Fukushima, and I'm going, well, then why the hell are they on? What? Isn't anybody getting the memo? These things they're time bombs all around the planet, 440 of them. And if you don't shut them down, they're going to wipe you out. And they're going to have to cask all these things. It's like the Detroit reactor, that G reactor. They got all these used spent fuel rods up there in the second story. And the only reason, and that plant shut down, and the only reason why they haven't moved those rods off from that thing was because of money. Because they could cask them on site, get them out of that thing.
Right.
There's more bad weather's coming. You need to do as much damage control as you can right now. And I was talking to one of the ABC agencies yesterday, and I was telling them, man, you guys need to have backup parts for these nuclear power plants standing by. There's all kinds of different types of reactors, and each one of them have a pump that's out in the laking system or the ocean system in front of the plant. They had a boat that almost ran into one of them off the coast. I think it was earlier this year. And if that pump unit that sits out there all by its little lonesome out in the water gets taken out, the unit, it's meat. Okay, say you get a major say you have an earthen dam break upstream and all that stuff comes down. Okay, and there's a nuclear reactor, downstream, and one of these boulders come by and just take out that thing. Okay, it's a meltdown. There's no way they're going to be able to pump water in it. But what I was stressing to them is, you guys got standby parts. You're accountable, man. If people haven't figured this out, I go back 3.5 years in my videos, just start going through them. I had a USGS validated grant before he came on YouTube. I'm going like, people, you got to hold them accountable. I did it. I did the job. Platforms down. You can get them. Go after them. They can't rewrite the science. It's valid science. All they can do is validate, and that's all they've done, is validate everything I've been saying. Why? Because it's science. It's common sense. And it doesn't matter what faith you are. Man, you start caring about the citizens, man. You start caring about your pets. They could come up with some kind of cure for the cancer, the radiation stuff. But what about the grass? What about the birds? I mean, wow.
Yeah. There was a guy that put out a video about a week ago, and I remixed it and put it on my channel, and he was filming these bees in Nova Scotia, and they were landing on flowers and they were dying while they're collecting pollen. They're just, all of a sudden, they're getting very lethargic, and then they're just falling off the plants. And it's like, well, I mean, if that's not, who knows what it is? The bees need to be tested. The flowers need to be tested. None of us have this equipment that we need to do this, but, the EPA has it. The government agencies have it. They're not using it. This is a waste of our money. Give us the machines. Let us use them if you're not going to use them, so we can get a handle on this. But, I mean, this would just draw attention to the problem. They don't want to put out the money. They don't want to shell out the money to deal with this stuff, to put it in dry casks. So it's sitting in these pools, and they got the fire hoses ready just in case something goes wrong. And it's complete bullshit. And it's going to take a meltdown over here to wake people up to this. And it's unfortunate, and I hope this isn't the time that it's going to happen. But boy, we're getting close.
Oh, no, they'll sleep right through it. You've already had multiple meltdowns here in the United States. Look at the toxic waste dump from hell the Hampered Works is. I mean, I was up there, and you look at El Diablo. I know. I walked on the devil's. I mean, I was just my shoes that place. But the coast is receding out there. That plant shut down. They got boats out there now. I pulled their covers, man. They had dead fish in there off of Coon Bridge right there at the nuclear power plant. You know, now the San Onofre, man, it's getting major seismic creep down there in San Diego. Man, it messed up their whole piping things. And then then this plant's old and dirt. You know, both these plants are old and dirt. You know, and
Yeah.
for them to, yeah, but until you get rid of the paper of incorporation, you got nothing. I mean, it's an idol. That's a false religion. Okay, and on God's terms, he ain't cool with it. Okay, with Earth terms, it's destroying it. Okay, and it's taking all our money. And until we kick that living, legal, higher power status of incorporation out, because it's a legal, living, higher power, which means by definition it's a legal, living God. Okay, which means it's a legal, living religion, which is against the First Amendment of the Constitution. You know, religion. All right, and I'm sitting there going, AIG, too big to fail. Aren't you getting it? That makes it a legal, living, higher power, people. You're in a false religion. No wonder you don't know fact from fiction. It's cartoon land backed by legal fiction, statutes, and acts that they make up at will for the greater greed to serve these fictional characters. I mean, it's Looney Tunes land. And you're wondering why you're sitting around near nuclear hell, ready to bust off on you. It's unbelievable. Man, come out of that nonsense, man. You know, I was down there at the chemtrail conference, and Roseanne Barr was talking. I put up a video yesterday on Info Tipover. It's one of my new backup channels. And you know, I talked about Roseanne, man. I talked about this false religion. Look, these power plants get rewarded to melt down. That's the way this religion's set up.
Oh, yeah, and if they do, the taxpayers will pay to clean it up.
Absolutely.
Not only will you get kicked out of your house, you'll be on the hook for the bill to clean the mess up because of the Price-Anderson Act.
And here's the
complete
deal.
Insanity.
This is where USGS, NOAA, NASA, all of them are culpable. Okay? You're not giving them the truth on post-glacial rebound effect. And I'm going to keep pulling you out of the woodwork. And I'm going to pull your covers on it. And if anybody starts dying from this nuclear meltdowns here in the United States, man, I hope they run the tables with you. Seriously. You know, I mean, this is just so basic. I'm chugging it down to where a 6-year-old can understand this stuff by now. These nuclear reactors are not going to hold up. That's it. They're not. And you're living in fantasy land if you think they are. You know, and there's like, oh, yeah, well, you know, we have to weigh the cost and effect and this and that. And man, it ain't about micromanaging nothing no more.
Yeah.
That ice is melting. It's not going to stop. It's going to keep widening this Earth. It's going to continue to sink the oceans. We're going to continue to have massive volcano upticks. We're going to see 9.0 earthquakes. They're coming. And that was right out of NOAA earlier this year. I know. I have it in a vid. You know, but they're not warning the people. They're not telling them why it's going to take place. They're still doing CO2 and sea level rise, which are both bullshit. And Yale came out. NASA confirmed this year that the sea level did not rise. It fell. Yeah, we had record melts. And it's going to keep falling. Did the last ice age, before the last ice age. But this time the Earth's a lot bigger. You know, and now with all these rebounding quakes happening up there in higher altitudes, expect your poles start moving towards the United Kingdom, from what I see. You know,
I encourage anybody who's reading any of these stories on any mainstream news sources to post Bug's channel, to post Radiation Watch's link, to post my page under these mainstream articles, so people who are reading the comments can find other sources for real information so they can get the truth. One of the people that I always go to whenever there's a concern about spikes happening is Noki Traverse, he's the go-to guy for the rad levels and meticulously posts graphs, spends a lot of time educating others. Noki, I'm really glad that you're here today. I'd love to have you on for a whole show at some point. But what are you seeing along the East Coast in terms of fallout or any spikes going on?
Well, there's spikes ahoy, and that's the name of the game. Is what we really did is watch this plume last week across America, and we charted and graphed it. The Great Lakes seem to have a capacitance effect. And it's my opinion that RADs have been loading up over Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and they come in really fast. It took less than 18 hours for this mega wave to roll from Seattle to Grand Rapids, Minnesota. So it was only in Seattle for part of one day. But once it arrived at the Great Lakes, it has remained there since. This hurricane has stirred it all up. So we saw it blown into New England, with Chicopee having a wild graph, a Tesla-like graph last night. Philadelphia. So the whole East Coast, the pollution is binding with the nuclides. So your high pollution areas are also highly radioactive areas. I expect a huge washout from all this snow and rain. So now we're going to switch from having a whole bunch in the atmosphere to a whole bunch getting put down. You're going to see your hut zones created where these things tend to concentrate. Then they'll be revolatilizing. But the RADS patterns last night were a lot like the hurricane. Hard to say where it's coming from or where it's going, but my personal Geiger counter looks like a cross between a seismograph and a barometer.
Oh, geez. Yeah, Jules was just saying she had some pretty high numbers yesterday, too.
Hopes Point, Michigan. These folks, you hit 75 CPM, it barely registered. The guy in Grand Rapids changed his radiation network alert level alarms because he was alerting us internationally every minute for 12 hours.
This was Grand Rapids, Minnesota?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And actually, I've started my own page. I'd like to plug it on Facebook. Radiation Watch got closed, and it's tough on Facebook sometimes, folks. So I have my own page, and it mimics our new coming international website for all the civilian posters. And I'm going to have my own website, and that is called radwatch.info. It's capital R, radwatch.info. And we're going to be up on the web, but right now I spelled it out on Facebook. So it's radwatch.info. And it's an open page, and I put all my charts there now. And we're posting a big shout out to Kevin Blanch. I hear you're feeling good, Kevin. And I love this person, Christina. Never met him.
Me too, by the way.
Never met this person, but I didn't have an older brother, but I do now. And listen, I've already been slammed by what that your last, sorry, I don't know anybody's names. I'm scrambled because I'm doing this thing.
Yeah,
but
we just pulled you in at the last minute, and we really appreciate you coming on.
That's so true. I have already been taken out by the economy. I already live on the couch. I do this because it gives my life meaning. I should be looking for a job. I've applied for Social Security. I just turned 60. But I lived on the farm in Tennessee, and these folks morphed into the best Geiger counter builders on the planet. And we put out a book in 74 called Shutdown. But really, it was Sam Lovejoy who got the Clamshell Alliance going back in Montague, Massachusetts. I had breakfast with him. He had just toppled the weather tower, and he started a revolution. And we need to get a handle on safe energy, safe economics. We have too many chemicals. This is bull. The organic farmers are our heroes, and that's why they're targeted by Homeland. And we are too, by the way, and surveillance is sizzling. Drones ahoy. Dude, but why can't I access real info? You go to Google, they're shut down. We have to go to the university to find science articles now because we can't get them on the web. Who's doing that? See, so Christina, it's a big dog we're jumping on the tail. We got to take them to court and cost them money because they hate that. And that's one dent. And then you make a dent, and then I make a dent. But we need, I need people to buy Geiger counters. And right now, Tim Flanagan's Radiation Network is the finest out there, folks. You get yourself a pancake model Geiger counter, an Inspector or PRM 9000. I'm not plugging nobody. Atomic Dave builds them. But get one and plug into your computer and see it for yourself. It's absolutely ever present every day. And it's flying in from Japan super fast.
Yeah.
In the U.S. and Canada, with our aerosol engineering, we push our rads up there, but they just come right back down on us. It's the same continent. It's the same atmosphere. No boundaries, no borders. Rich folks' kids are going to get sick too, okay?
You don't have to be rich to mitigate this, though. And that's why I've been so concerned, too, about people. This isn't something just rich people should be able to get out of. You know, if you know how to avoid certain foods and you know how to avoid certain conditions, that doesn't cost any money. You know, the Geiger counter is a big one. And
Right.
if you can't afford one, I tell people just treat everything like it's radioactive. Expect that it's going to be on your produce. Expect that it's
please,
going to be
everyone.
outside. Act appropriately. Monitor your own health. Make adjustments. Of course, I haven't been doing such a great job of that, but now what you're telling me about the Great Lakes, no wonder.
Hey, you got to leave your outdoor shoes outdoors, folks.
Yeah, that's not just for the West Coast people.
Anywhere, just
I think he just faded out.
Oh, okay.
wash your food. All right, guys.
Thanks a lot. We'll get you back on for a whole show.
Oh, well, we love you so much. You know, you and Jewel are actual psychic superheroes of mine. We are all living in a Quentin Tarantino real-life episode of Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, guys.
Thanks, Noki.
I'll catch you later. I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Now, I want to touch on the sinkhole situation, too, because there was a really important story that came out from the geologist. I believe his name is Gary Hecox. He's been the state scientist who's been talking about what's going on underground or what he thinks is going on. I'm here to tell you I was wrong about low pressure readings. This came from The Advocate by David Mitchell. He fears a gas could escape through the earth and present explosive risks. And in the last couple of nights, Dutch in particular has been posting some fire alerts along the southern coast of Louisiana into East Texas, and people were worried maybe this was some kind of burning event related to the sinkhole. But from what locals have told me in the area, this is the time of year when they burn their sugar cane. But when the state officials are saying they face uncertainty about how much gas is underground, at high enough pressures, the colorless and odorless gas could escape from the aquifer through the solid earth, collect unseen, and present an explosive risk. They don't expect those kind of levels, but they really don't know. I don't know how they can be allowing people to burn the sugarcane right now in such close proximity to this sinkhole area. There were a couple of very sharp earthquakes recorded there a few days ago, but it's kind of dropped off the list of things here with everything that we've been dealing with the hurricane. And I've got a theory that I'm working on. I'd love to get Bug's input on this, and I'm sorry that I didn't send it to you before the show, But we've talked a lot about Jack Reed, a retired USGS worker and consultant for the oil industry, and Matt Simmons, and the syndrome that he was describing, almost like starting from the Gulf of Mexico Mercado well site. He was theorizing that gas was going to be pushed through the faults, through the cracks in the earth, and could extend into related faults, or faults that he felt were related to the Gulf of Mexico, into South Carolina, up into all the way through the Great Lakes, through the New Madrid, and along the St. Lawrence Seaway. And we've seen a couple recent earthquakes there, and these earthquakes are all accompanied by loud booms underground. Then there's been a couple of explosive events at utility places underground too, and I've had some utility workers' families posting on my page. These are very unusual explosions, sending manhole covers 12 to 20 feet in the air. This happened on both sides of the New Madrid Fault in the last 2 weeks. And what I'm proposing is a theory linking these things together called Reed-Simmons theory, or hopefully it'll end up being Reed-Simmons syndrome. So when you're talking about this stuff, everybody knows what we're referring to. By definition, this would be any geological event, geyser, earthquake, or outgassing of radon, sulfur, methane, hydrocarbons, or other gas or liquids that may connect to the Mercado well site in the Gulf of Mexico, up through the New Madrid, through the inlet of the St. Lawrence Seaway. This includes connective faults, as proposed by Jack Reed in South Carolina, in the Great Lakes region, and possibly previous undiscovered faults or new fissures in the seafloor caused by the BP disaster. The resulting pressure, which was discussed extensively by Matt Simmons, he said they could never cap the wells because of the pressure. This could include any of these events associated with the bordering states on the Gulf: Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Mexico. We've seen earthquakes there all week. They only stay on the global incident map for 24 hours. And USGS will, sometimes they take them off, sometimes they leave them on. You look at these seismographs, though. There's a lot of stuff happening underground now. And it seems like it's kind of fanning out from this area. So it's a work in progress. Bug, I'd appreciate any of your input as far as that goes, and I can send it to you.
Oh, I could talk about this right now. I don't need that guy's report. Yeah, I went to school. I went to college at 12, man. I'm an educational junkie. Let me see what you got going on right now is what I put in a video almost 3 years ago. People they trip on my, I guess my appearance or whatever, but I left the system like 10 years ago, people. And there are no dentists where I'm at, There are no doctors, there's no banks, no nothing. I don't use any of those services, okay? Don't be fooled by my appearance, okay? First off. But, oh yeah, that's a quantitative field. Man, that whole place is Swiss cheese. And, I went down into Texas, I looked over there. You've got piping systems throughout this planet. They're everywhere. And you get gas pockets, you get stuff backing up, you get methane hydrates, you got a cornucopia of nightmares underneath your ground. And when they start pulling this stuff up and pulling it out and high pressurizing it down there so they could pump more up, and then you get that water or that oil removed, it's like a glacier. It's weight. It don't matter if it's underground. They took that weight off that area. And when you're taking, billions of gallons off the location or region, now you're talking a glacier. Okay, and that area will rebound up, and it will go back to its adjustment. So when they take that weight out, it doesn't matter if it's ice sitting on top of land or oil sitting under land. It's all weight. And they take that weight out, they high pressurize them things anyway. And then the 70 miles down in your earth, that weight is recalibrated by the earth itself. So that weight comes off that area, the earth rebounds back up in there. So it's like a syringe now that got sucked out. Now it's pressurizing. It's pushing like that, and it's got little say at the end of the needle, you know, you hold it so it can't push the air out, okay, and until it does. And it did. You know, welcome BP, welcome to that. You know, it's like right after the 9 earthquake in Japan, you had that platform, the oil platform out there in the Gulf. You know, and it was in direct line with the 7th earthquake of Haiti to the BP rig. You know, I mean, I'm sitting there going, holy smokes, Texas, you're on the clock, man. You know, and it's had nothing but a series of earthquakes ever since I walked that area. You know, they've been in the 3s and 4s, but you know, I've seen the land already starting to crack apart and open. You know, and I talked about that in Michigan. You know, and then, you know, on the land just uplifting and cracking with no earthquake. And I took on some MIT dude on radio up there. You know, as what is it? The tornado alerts are going on. Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what, man. I jump in the Shark Tank all the time. You know, and my person in Oregon, call me, man. Your phone number doesn't work. It looks like I need to take a look at Cascadia. You know, because Oregon's looking pressure central. You know, I was there 2 days before the Coos Bay quake. You know, 6-something quake. You know, but yeah, I sit around calling these things like nothing. But Richard Guy, he'll talk to you about the widening earth. He's got 3 books on it. I don't have time to write books or anything else. We got to change this game, man. You got to plant a foundation, man. You can have Artie Gunderson's talking about nuclear stuff and this, and you can have that and the other and everything else. But, man, these guys need to be accountable. Since we can't go after these bankers, we definitely can go after these geologists because the earth is talking. They can't hide it anymore. Okay, we can look at chemtrails forever. We can do this, that, and the other. But right now, you got the science to take out the nuclear power plants. All we need is to get the word out. Holy smokes! I am not Alex Jones. You know, I mean, I make $35,000 a year in my sleep. You know, yet I walked away from all that stuff, came onto YouTube, went through 20 states, I don't know, 1,000 races, whatever. Why? Because there's some things in life you can't throw money at to fix, okay? So that system is negative science when it comes to what we're looking at right now. I don't have time for it, you know? And I'm going like, wow, man, people, you got to do your end of this. I am not Alex Jones. I don't get paid $50,000 a year with unlimited resources. It's not working that way. And the U.S.
Imagine what we could do with that.
I mean, that's more money than I've seen in, you know, probably double, maybe triple what I've taken in over the last 3.5 years. You know, Jesus rising and beans and rice and Jesus Christ. But I have met so many wonderful people, and I don't see anything in my life that is more worthwhile for mankind in this planet.
Absolutely.
You know, and whether there's a paycheck in it or not, man, I ain't doing it for a paycheck, or I wouldn't be doing it right now, or you guys wouldn't.
Well, we certainly appreciate you, and I appreciate you sitting in for me last week and jumping on with us today, which you're welcome to anytime. We'll be watching the fallout. Check out Noki's page. Post Bug's YouTube channel on any of these mainstream articles where people are asking questions, as they should be. Post the Radchick page if people are wondering about the nuke plant situation. I'm most concerned right now with Oyster Creek, but we'll be keeping an eye on things. I came across a weird little movie someone sent me last night called When the Wind Blows, and it's a cartoon from the UK that depicts a nuclear attack on the UK by the Soviet Union from the viewpoint of a retired couple, Jim and Hilda Bloggs. The Bloggs live in rural Sussex and are confused regarding the nature and seriousness of their situation. This confusion is sometimes used to generate gentle comedy as well as darker elements. As the film progresses, things become steadily more hopeless as the couple suffer from the effects of radiation sickness. Film ends on an extremely bleak note, and with them praying in their fallout shelter as death approaches. You know, check out this video. It's on YouTube, When the Wind Blows, and post it around for people to check out as well, because there will be a lot of confusion and people will not understand the seriousness of their situation. I would like to end the show today with a song that somebody sent us on the Rad Chick page, a guy that was concerned about nuclear war and fallout and what he sees going on, and the way that he figures he could best express himself is by creating music. So thank you, Shane Sanders, for sharing this with us. We'll be back on Thursday or sooner if any kind of emergencies develop, and thanks again to everyone.
Helping into the end.